I welcome the one and only Nita Strauss. How are you doing, mate?
I'm doing good, thanks. How about you?
Yeah, not so bad. Not so bad. Hollywood has been a crazy place for both of us this week, I
It
think.
really has. It really, really has. Very wild.
So I'm going to start with a massive question.
Okay.
Before we get into what makes a brilliant guitar player and all the kind of the flares and the eccentricities of this kind of thing, I wanted to ask you, as someone that I consider as in the modern era, 100% one of the people at the forefront of championing the guitar as an instrument, when these rock is dead things go flying around, what's your take on that as someone that is such an advocate for the guitar?
I mean, I think that anyone that says that rock is dead has not been to an Alice Cooper show anytime recently, or has not been to one of my solo shows, or isn't going out to shows. I mean, is it the massive movement that maybe it was in the 80s or 90s or something? Maybe not, but I mean, it's gigantic. We're playing shows, sold out shows all around the world. If I can make a successful record as an instrumental guitar player, then I think we're all in pretty good shape.
I love that. That's such a wicked attitude, especially when I look at the last when I look at the last 5 years. It looks like it's been a real breakthrough for you. Has there been a moment over the course of the last 5 years that it felt like things went from kind of 45 miles an hour to 120?
To be perfectly honest, I don't think I've been at that 45 mile per hour point since I was like 18. I started touring at age 15. I've been playing guitar professionally my whole adult life. And maybe more people knew about me in the last 5 years since playing with Alice. It'll be my 6 year anniversary with the band coming up this month. But it's definitely been a long trudge up to all of this point. That meteoric rise to stardom. I don't think it happens for anybody. It's like pushing a heavy boulder up a steep hill.
And, and so when you say that like it had been going for so long prior to that, what was the passion for you during the pre-Alice days, the pre everyone kind of knowing who Nita Strauss is? Was it just straight away a natural bond with the instrument?
Yeah, I think I was just that guitar player that wanted to be on stage playing guitar. I didn't really care who I was playing with or what kind of music I was playing. I wanted to get up on stage and play in front of people. I would play guitar for anybody here in LA that would have me. I did the weirdest tours, metal and pop and funk and rock, cover bands, original bands. Basically, anybody that would let me step on stage with them, I would be on that stage and just try to get better at my craft.
What was the weirdest one of all of those? I could see you scanning the memory banks as you were saying that.
I did a tour in 2009 playing with Jermaine Jackson, Michael Jackson's brother, and
Wow.
it was a stadium tour in Africa. So that was my first time playing to over 100,000 people, playing at a soccer stadium in Senegal or Gambia, somewhere like, not what you sort of think of as the modernized Africa, like Cape Town or Johannesburg or something, but like really in, parts of Africa that I think a lot of musicians don't get to go to. So when I say weird, I don't mean weird like bad or anything. It's just,
Yeah.
I have a unique perspective that I think a lot of maybe metal musicians don't get to have because I've had these off the wall gigs. No
Yeah.
Michael Jackson, pun intended.
like even listening to you, a sentence as insane as the first time I played to 100,000 people is just a wild snapshot. I mean, even myself and my wife, we saw you at WrestleMania, so I know that kind of
Another odd gig.
I mean, Jesus, that was crazy. But
Were you
like,
guys there in New Orleans?
yeah, man, we were there. We were there. Mate,
I don't think that.
dude, we were on the floor next to the ramp. We were right there when you were playing
That's
Shinsuke to the ring.
amazing. Oh my god, you guys send me some pictures if you have any.
Oh, 100%. There is, yeah. I'll talk to you after we're finished
Please,
about that.
yes.
But do those moments? Is there anything that stands out as far as playing to 100,000 people that is at the forefront of your mind when, like, the difference between a club and a stadium and that many people? What is it that changes in those dynamics?
I think it's harder when there's a big crowd like that. I think it's harder to make that one-on-one connection with people. Like I'm that guitar pro, like I'm always up here in the show. Like I want to be like in everybody's face, making that personal connection with people in the audience. Like I want as many people as I can to have that moment of like, you know, she looked at me and I looked at her and like, you know, we were rocking together for a second in this song. So it's harder when you're on that massive scale of people. But other than that, I think a lot of musicians will probably say the same thing. Your goal is to do the same show that you would do to those 100,000 people if you're playing in front of 100 people or 50 people or 500 people at a club gig. You want to always give that same energy and that same intensity that you would give on those huge stages. So performance wise, I'd like to think that I do about the same thing, but I think it's just a little bit harder maybe to make that connection with more specific people in the audience, because you're always second guessing, like, have I just been focusing on this one person the whole time? You're trying to find like different people in the crowd to like single out. And so, yeah, I don't know about that.
There's one thing seeing the whites in someone's eyes. There's another thing someone being at the other end of an NFL stadium.
Exactly. Freaking football field, like 6 football fields next to each other. You look at something like Wacken Open Air or something like, you know, there's a great picture of me from when I guess I shouldn't say the first time I played at Wacken, because it's only been the one time with Alice. But there's this great picture of me because I got down low on the riser for the first song and I was on my knees looking out and I was like, holy shit. Like, this is, you know, even though it wasn't the biggest crowd, it just like, there was something about being there, the vibe of Wacken and being there in front of that crowd. It's something that like as a metalhead kid growing up, you just dream about and read about. So that kind of thing it's special. It's good to have the opportunity to like drink in that moment, you know.
And it's such a, like, because I knew you were coming on the show and I was thinking about this, it's such a subjective thing what makes a great guitar player. Like, it is, there are so many, because rock is so multifaceted and all the rest of it, and we'll get into it. But just as a blanket top line, is there anything for your personal taste that just naturally pops you when you hear a guitar player? Is there a certain something that you look for?
Like basically what makes a great guitar player?
Yeah.
Like I think what really makes a great guitar player is personality. Having that personality in your performance and your playing that sets you apart from everybody else that's doing it. Like, for example, I always say this in my clinics. The first time I heard the band Velvet Revolver, I didn't even know there was a Velvet Revolver. Like, I wasn't paying attention. I didn't know there was a new super group coming out. Maybe it had been a surprise or something. I'm not sure. But I was driving in my car and I heard the Velvet Revolver song, you know, their first single come out, and they got to the guitar solo. I was like, huh, that's Slash. And, you know, I was like, I don't know. This clearly isn't Guns N' Roses. I don't know what band got Slash to do a guest solo for them, but that's Slash. Like, and that's, when you hear that, you know, the compartmentalization, they go, oh, that's Slash. Like this, you know, Steve Vai is another one. Joe Satriani is another one. Like Marty Friedman is another one. You just hear these guitar players and you instantly know, like, oh, that's Marty Friedman. You know, you can recognize Marty Friedman's vibrato and his bend anywhere. So something like that, I think, is what really sets people apart.
I love that you say personality as well, because when I was thinking about like the style of guitar playing that I like it was in my head, I was thinking everything from like the classics that you just mentioned, some of the stuff that's going on in the world of instrumental metal at the moment. I mean, it's been Animals as Leaders for years. I'm super keen on Polyphia. And like, but at the end of the day, I also really love Rivers from Weezer for his melodic approach to solos, and Noel Gallagher and people like that are not necessarily your technical virtuosos, but there's just so much to cling on to.
Oh yeah, there's something to be said for guitar solo that you can sing along as a melody. You know, like if you go see, we opened up for Guns N' Roses in Brazil a couple years ago, and when they played Sweet Child of Mine, you could hear the crowd singing along to the guitar solo. The Sweet Child of Mine solo, like the main part of that solo, is not a very technical solo. You know, an intermediate guitar player can play that. But when you hear the crowd singing along to it, or you take Iron Maiden, Fear of the Dark, and, you know, you get that first riff, and it's now more of a vocal line than it is a guitar line. You know, that first little melody that the guitar is playing. So it's definitely, it's weird coming from me, somebody that's sort of made my career playing fast stuff, but it's sometimes, you know, it's about that melody.
How much of it comes down to technicality? Because my all-time favorite band is Metallica, right? Like I'm beyond obsessive about it. And when I think about my two favorite Kirk guitar solos, they're both so different. One is the Unforgiven, because
Oh,
the solo is so intrinsic to the story of that kind of road-worn outlaw feel. The solo fits it so perfectly. And the other one that really stands out to me is The Thing That Should Not Be, because it's so abstract, and like the wah sound really gets inside that Lovecraftian feel.
yes.
What I guess further to what makes a great guitar player, what is it that makes a great solo, and is shred essential? Because you play like a motherfucker, so like
I think that the most important thing for a great guitar solo is kind of exactly what you said, something that tells a part of the song. So, for example, when I'm doing a guest solo for someone, the first thing that I always ask, besides like what's the tempo and what the key, is what's the song about? I need to know like what's going on in the song so I can tell my little chapter of the story. You know what I mean? So it's the same thing with my songs. When I write my solo songs, it might feel like they're not about anything because there's not any words, but they are all really about something.
Where does that's fascinating to me. Where does the inspiration come from, and how like with words and with that kind of, like, you're kind of as an audience led down that path of like, it's open to interpretation, but here's a loose feel of what this song is about. How do you channel a feeling into instrumental music?
I think it's the same exact way that a singer would do it. I just don't do it with words. I write my songs the exact same way that a lyricist would write songs. You just don't have any words to tell it with. You tell the story with the emotion and the guitar playing. So I put out a song called Our Most Desperate Hour. It was the first single from Controlled Chaos, my first album. And when I put it out, I put out a post on social media and I said, what do you guys think this song's about? Like, when you hear this, what does it make you feel? And I got all these responses in the comment section. One person said, it reminds me of a ship sailing in a storm, and at the end of, and finally the storm breaks and they made it home, throughout this incredible chaos of being in the storm. Another person said, it reminds me of a general leading his troops into battle, and there's this crazy battle and they don't know if they're going to make it out alive, and at the end they get to, they get to the top of the hill and they survey the devastation and they won, but at what cost, or something, And I was reading these responses and I was like, because I obviously didn't write it about a boat or a general, but I wrote it about exactly that, an experience in my life where, it was this really chaotic, tumultuous time that I wasn't sure what was going to happen on the other end of it. And at the end of that time in my life, there became peace and harmony and happiness. So it really was great validation to me that I was able to tell that story, and make it whatever it needed to be for people. That's the beauty of instrumental music. There's nothing telling you like, hey, you have to listen to this song if you go through a breakup, or if you have a loss in your life, or if you're feeling like, it can be whatever you need it to be. There's another song on the album, which is called Here With You. And I've had people tell me that song has helped them, get through a death in their family. And I've had people tell me that they feel that the song is maybe something telling them to get closer to the spirituality in their life, that there's a higher power that's there with them. So I love that it can mean different things to different people. I think that's important.
And like, I don't get the chance to talk to too many like instrumental metal people because of what I do here.
Right.
What really stood out listening to Controlled Chaos last night was that it doesn't feel like specifically instrumental metal has to be your thing. There is plenty to grab onto if you don't live in that zone.
Totally. I like to think of it as a great gateway for people that don't necessarily listen to instrumental music. It was so flattering for me because I listen to instrumental music all the time. As a guitar player, I love this stuff. But I had so many people who were, maybe Alice fans or fans of just regular bands that like my guitar playing. They're like, I never got into instrumental music because I thought it was just one long guitar solo. But now that I've listened to this album, I'm going to go pick up some instrumental albums. And if I can turn a few people on to this style of music that has inspired me so much, then that's an amazing thing.
If I may ask as well, like with it being a lockdown situation and with Controlled Chaos, like where does the time go? But with that being like 2 years ago now, I guess what I wanted to ask is, what is your next step feeling like at the moment? Because presumably there's been writing going on.
Oh, yes. I'm midway through the writing process of this next album. I'm loving the way it's coming out. It has become a little harder to focus the longer the lockdown goes on. Like, I think everyone's getting a little demotivated right now.
Mm.
Um, but yeah, it's going along really, really well. Still very inspired. You know, you mentioned at the beginning of this, living here in Hollywood, there's certainly some inspiration for some dark music to be written right now with everything going on. So, you know, just forging forward, and the songs, I definitely feel like I've matured a lot as a songwriter since Controlled Chaos. I don't feel that, you know, I just need to get my own thoughts out right now. I feel like I can really take a step back and think it through a little better. And I'm really pleased with that as well.
I had never considered instrumental metal something that comes with empathetic feeling as well, like the feeling
Yeah.
that's in the air or the feeling that's what's going on in your life. This has been super illuminating. Nita, when you've got a new record coming, when the record is done and all the rest of it, please do come back and see us so that we can get inside everything you've got going on. I just wanted to, before you go, you do clinics, right? And there's been an announcement recently. Can you tell us a little bit about it and about what people could expect at a Nita Strauss clinic?
Yes, actually. So I just released my online guitar course, which is a fully comprehensive guitar instructional course for all levels of player. It literally starts out, the first lesson is for people that have never picked up a guitar before in their life, and starts out with literally, this is a guitar. And it moves through the three phases of, you know, there's a beginner section, intermediate section, and advanced section. And that is called Rock Guitar Fundamentals. And you can find it at www.iwanttoplayguitar.com, which is my favorite URL ever. And we can totally do a special discount for you guys' viewers. If you'd like, just use the code Mosh Talks, and you guys will go ahead and get 50% off that. I'll go ahead and set that up right now, so it'll be live by the time this is live. Mosh Talks, MOSHTALKS, and we'll hook you guys up. Beyond that, if you come to one of the clinics, it'll be a lot of the same stuff that I cover in the course, as well as road stories, Q&A, a lot of gear, because it's always sponsored by the companies that, you know, that bring me out. They're my endorsers. So the clinic will be more of a one-on-one chance to interact and ask personal questions.
So you can find the description. We'll put the link in the description below, and use the code MoshTalks, all one word, to get 50% off. iwanttoplayguitar.com. Nita, thank you so much for coming on the show today, and we'll speak when the new record's done.
Thanks a lot. Thanks for having me on. Stay safe.